Project Hail Mary. Why it did not work for me, but some good moments. That is the movie that I'll be getting into today. What's going on, everybody? BK here, back on Crew Boy Productions with the Silly Nerdy and Wordy Podcast. And this is going to be episode 106. Project Hail Mary and why it didn't work for me. What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone is doing very, very well. Glad to be back with you. And yes, I'm talking about the new film Project Hail Mary, starring Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling is also a producer on this film as well. This film is directed by the directing tandem of Lord and Miller. And overall, I did not like this movie. It didn't work for me, although it had some good moments in it. And of course, I know respectfully that everyone worked really hard on this film, where they work really hard on every film. But unfortunately, this one just didn't go right for me. And I will tell you why. I tell you why because starting out, the way this film started, and maybe perhaps the structure of the film in terms of how they got to from the beginning to the end, the way it started, it just took me out of it like right away. I don't know if it was just they were trying to be a little bit funny in the beginning, but just the way, the choices they had, what Dr. Grace's character, Ryan Gosling's character, was doing in the opening moments just didn't really sit well with me, and I think they just kind of carried on through the rest of the film in terms of the choices that were made. Another thing that wasn't working for me was the time jump, of course, starting in the present and then going back to the past and filling in the gaps. Of course, this is done a lot in TV when you have the characters that start in the future and then they go back and they say it's 23 hours earlier or 3 days earlier or whatnot. And if it's done correctly, it works. And for whatever reason, it just didn't work for me, although it did fill the gaps for this particular film. So that was just it was just not going well for me. I want to say the majority of the first act of this film and about more than halfway through the second act of this film, I was not invested in it. I didn't become invested until late in the second act into the third act. It wasn't until he got the relationship going. He met the alien, and then Dr. Grace met the alien, then established communication and went through the voices, having the different actors, having Meryl Streep in there. That was really cool. But getting the voice and the communication established with the alien. Once that started to happen, then I started to become invested, because one of the things that I really liked about this movie was the relationship between Ryan Gosling's character and the alien Rocky. So that relationship, I really got invested in it once that started going. And there was, good comedy in there once that started going. So that was one of the things that I liked in it. And then, of course, the transition of going back and forth. And of course, this story is the Earth there's something going on in space in terms of the stars dying and everywhere but one particular sector in space. And so they identify Dr. Grace as this doctor that can help. And he starts to help them on Earth, and he reluctantly goes to space. And we find out later that he did not want to go to space. He was forced, he was literally forced to go to space, and he had to be injected and forced, and he went, and then he worked on it, and he spent years, and then the scientists that he was going to go up with, the backup ones, died on Earth, and then the ones that went up with him, they died, and of course they didn't show how that happened. They talked about it, they referenced it, so that was interesting. But the just the choices in this film, I guess it didn't work for me. Like I said, until the second and the third act of the film. And I will say that it does bring up some questions. It did make you think in terms of if something like this were to happen and how would this go in terms of would the countries be able to work together and share resources. And of course, the question was answered within the structure of the film. But I don't know. It just didn't work for me too much. The ending, I thought it was an interesting choice where he had the chance to go back to Earth twice on 2 occasions and did not go on both occasions. And so that was interesting. Technically, I'll say there was some interesting things where there are a lot of scenes where it's just Ryan Gosling's character by himself talking to the alien and then also just talking to the camera as he's recording everything before he meets and discovers the alien. So I imagine that there was a lot of filming days where just Ryan was on set talking to the camera recording and talking to the alien without any other actors on set and filming those most likely in the structure that they probably built for the spaceship. And I would say maybe there's like a small chance, like 5 to 15% chance that maybe they used the volume for those shots showing the shots in space as Ryan's character was going in space and repairing things and grabbing the elements from space as he was trying to do. So perhaps they used the volume. I don't know, but we'll see if that ever comes out. But towards the end of the film, like I said, the relationship is what got me invested in this film. And the ending, I thought it was an okay ending, but not wanting to go back to Earth. That was a very interesting choice, but you can understand from the character, Ryan's character perspective, as he almost didn't have anyone to go back home to or nothing besides his teaching. So the decision to just stay in space and do that is understandable. And then I would say it was probably a lot of wire work and harness work for Ryan Gosling, especially when he was going in space, repairing things and doing those scenes where he's grabbing the element that was needed to be sent back to Earth, and he had to be on the rig and had that long cord attached to him. So a lot of wire work and harness work done for him and possibly his stunt double. So a lot of really good core work to be on those harnesses as well. But the comedy was, didn't really go good for me in the beginning. I think it got a little bit better once the relationship was going between Rocky and Dr. Grace. I did enjoy that. Like I said, that relationship, and also the emotion that Ryan was showing when he thought Rocky initially died. That was really great. I enjoyed how Ryan portrayed that and did that. The scenes where they were flashing back to the past with the other actors, in terms of that, nothing really stood out to me, I would say. The only thing that I enjoyed was the montage and the little buddy relationship between Dr. Grace and Carl as they were building the structure and doing their tests in the hardware store and then back to the facility. I thought that was pretty nice. And then, of course, when they were forcing him to go to space, putting him on the ground and just forcing him and injecting him, that was something that stood out to me. The conversation about how the heights and what importance was, but overall, the scenes with the flashbacks back to Earth didn't really get me going. It just didn't really get me invested, unfortunately. And as one person says in the YouTube space, he always says, John Campia, movies are subjective. Now, there are people that will love this movie and like this movie, and others that will not. Unfortunately, I respectfully didn't like this movie too much, but there were some good moments in this movie. So that is all I'm going to have to say for this movie. But hope you Enjoyed my different take on it. It's mostly negative and a few positives, but I do these movies and streaming movies and other upcoming films as well as Broadway. So subscribe to the channel here on Crewboy Productions. You can follow the podcast on all the different podcast platforms here on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you prefer audio, just search for the Silly Nerdy and Wordy Podcast and follow the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And I'm also on TikTok at Nerdy Podcaster 124. You can follow me there for the shorts as well as Crewboy Productions on Instagram, as I have the shorts and shorter episodes on there as well. And that is it for today. So I hope all of you have good vibes for the rest of your day. And until next time, we will talk soon.